A man had been detained for 11 hours at Miami International Airport. A man who had been personally selected to officiate at the greatest tournament in football. A man who had earned every honor his sport could offer him, denied entry, sent home. And the organization that chose him said only that immigration decisions belonged to host governments and that his status would not change. Silence for days, while the football world demanded answers that never fully came. And then, this week, FIFA finally said something. Not a statement at a press conference, not a public apology, a quiet financial decision, confirmed by sources rather than announced from a podium. Omar Artan, the referee who never got to officiate a single match at the World Cup he was chosen for, will be paid in full, every cent he would have earned had he stood on that pitch. It is the closest thing to an admission FIFA has offered, and the story behind that decision tells you something important about an organization still trying to manage the fallout of one of the most painful moments in this tournament's history. Stay with us, because what FIFA just did and how they did it reveals more than any press conference ever could. To understand the weight of this decision, you have to remember exactly what was taken from Omar Artan. He grew up in Mogadishu, in a country where football infrastructure had been shattered by decades of conflict. He became a referee after his playing career ended. He worked through the Somali Domestic League on roads where danger was not a distant possibility, but a daily reality. He earned his FIFA International badge. He took charge of matches at the highest level African football has to offer. He was named the Confederation of African Football's Best Male Referee of 2025. And from a pool of officials representing the entire footballing world, FIFA selected him personally, formally, on merit, to be part of the 2026 World Cup, the first Somali referee in the tournament's 94-year history. He flew from Mogadishu through Istanbul toward Miami, carrying with him a diplomatic passport and a visa that had been properly issued by the Somalia Embassy in Kenya. He was due to join the rest of the world's elite referees at their training base in Florida, preparing for the assignments that would define the pinnacle of his career. He never made it past the airport. U.S. Customs and Border Protection held him for approximately 11 hours. Officials later said he was inadmissible due to vetting concerns. A separate U.S. official went further, telling reporters he was associated with suspected members of a terrorist organization, a claim that named the militant group Al-Shabaab specifically. During his questioning, Artan denied such a connection in the strongest possible terms. "I had the right papers and everything. I had the right visa. I'm just simply a referee who's trying to live his dream, the biggest dream of my life, to come to the World Cup." He was deported. FIFA provided assistance during his transit through Istanbul. He landed back in Mogadishu to a hero's welcome. Crowds at the airport, Somali flags, police escorts, a nation embracing a man who had done nothing wrong except try to fulfill the assignment his sport's governing body had given him. If you are following the full story of this World Cup, every twist, every development, subscribe now and hit the bell, because what we are about to explain is one of the more complicated and quietly significant moments of this entire tournament. In the days that followed, FIFA's public posture was careful, minimal, and consistent. The organization said it was not involved in immigration processes of host countries. It said the host government ultimately determines who is granted entry. It confirmed formally that Artan would not be able to train or officiate at the World Cup. President Gianni Infantino, when pressed on the matter at a press conference, called it unfortunate and told the watching world that sometimes it is good to chill and relax. That phrase became one of the most repeated and most criticized lines of the entire tournament buildup.
UEFA moved first to do something concrete, Within days, European football's governing body announced that Artan would referee the 2026 UEFA Super Cup final between Paris Saint-Germain and Aston Villa in Salzburg this August, making him the first African official to take charge of a major UEFA final. President Alexander Seferin's statement was pointed in its simplicity. "Football is made to connect people," he said, and UEFA wants to show its respect to Omar and his outstanding officiating skills. That appointment mattered enormously. It gave Artan a stage, a moment of genuine recognition, a return to elite officiating sooner than anyone could have predicted. But it was UEFA's gesture, not FIFA's. The organization that had selected him for the World Cup and whose tournament he was denied the chance to work had still, not in any concrete way, addressed what had happened to him directly. This week, that changed, quietly. Multiple outlets, including the Associated Press, BBC Sport, and TalkSport, reported that FIFA has committed to paying Artan his full World Cup tournament fee. The exact figure will be determined after the competition concludes next month, in keeping with how referee compensation is typically calculated. But sources with knowledge of the arrangement confirmed the principle clearly. Despite not officiating a single match across the tournament's 6-week span, Artan will receive the baseline payment owed to every match official selected for this World Cup. To understand what that means in real terms, you need to understand how much officiating at this tournament is actually worth. Referees selected for the 2026 World Cup are receiving the most generous compensation in the competition's history. The baseline participation fee for selected officials sits at approximately $100,000, roughly double what referees were paid at the 2014 World Cup in Brazil, and well above the $70,000 reported for top officials at Qatar 2022. That figure is guaranteed regardless of how many matches an official is ultimately assigned. On top of it, officials who progress into the knockout rounds receive additional bonuses, with those reaching the final reportedly eligible for $60,000 to $70,000 in further payments. Artan will receive the baseline fee, not the knockout bonuses, since he was never able to take the pitch at all, but the core payment, the recognition that he was selected, that his place was earned, and that what happened to him afterward was not a reflection of his ability or his conduct. No FIFA statement has formally explained the decision in public terms. There has been no press conference, no official press release laying out the reasoning. The information has come from sources speaking to journalists, not from FIFA's communications department speaking to the world. Even in making what is arguably the right decision, FIFA chose to make it quietly. But the decision itself speaks loudly enough, because referees are not normally compensated for tournaments they do not work. The standard model ties payment to participation, appearances, assignments, rounds reached. By breaking from that model entirely and guaranteeing Artan his full fee regardless of his absence from the pitch, FIFA is implicitly acknowledging something it has never said outright, that what happened to him was not his failure, that his exclusion from the World Cup was not a professional shortcoming, a disciplinary issue, or a performance concern. It was something that happened to him, not because of him.
That distinction matters enormously, not just financially, but for Artan's standing within the sport. Officiating at a World Cup is widely regarded as the single highest achievement available to a referee, often the culmination of more than a decade of work and sacrifice. To have that achievement taken away through a process entirely outside his control, and then to have no formal recognition of what was lost, would have compounded an already devastating moment. FIFA's payment does not undo what happened. It cannot restore the missed matches or the historic distinction of being the first Somali referee at a men's World Cup. But it does something that matters in football's quieter currency of respect. It confirms, in the clearest language football understands, that Omar Artan was and remains a World Cup referee. There is something worth sitting with in how this story has unfolded across the past 2 weeks. Two footballing institutions responding to the same injustice in two very different ways. UEFA moved fast, moved publicly, and made its gesture into a statement about what the sport stands for. FIFA moved slowly, moved quietly, and made its gesture into a financial transaction processed largely out of view. Both responses, in their own way, tried to make something right. Neither one can fully repair what was lost. Artan himself has shown a grace throughout this entire ordeal that is difficult not to admire. Despite the heartbreak, despite the unproven allegations leveled against him, despite watching a dream built over more than a decade collapse in an 11-hour interrogation room, he has not retreated into bitterness. He has already set his sights on the next World Cup in 2030, hosted across Morocco, Portugal, and Spain. He has thrown himself into preparation for the UEFA Super Cup in August. He continues to speak about football with the same passion that carried him from the broken pitches of Mogadishu to the brink of the sport's biggest stage. Somalia gave him a hero's welcome when he came home. The football world gave him its sympathy and its outrage. UEFA gave him a stage in Salzburg. And now, FIFA, the organization whose tournament took everything from him without ever fully explaining why, has finally given him something too. Not an apology, not an explanation, but a number on a payment, quietly agreed, that says what FIFA has never said publicly. He earned this, he deserved this, and what happened to him was not right. It is not justice, it is not even close to what was taken from him. But in the absence of anything else from football's governing body, it is, for now, the closest thing to an answer the world is going to get. The 2026 World Cup continues, the matches go on, the goals are scored, the controversies multiply, and the tournament moves forward without him, exactly as it has from the moment he was turned away at the gate. But somewhere in the quiet arithmetic of a referee's fee, finally agreed and finally confirmed, Omar Artan has been told, in the only language his sport's governing body seems able to use right now, that he was right all along. He was simply a referee, trying to live his dream.